Welcome to the show Gold Squadron Gays. It's the podcast where two Star Wars loving gays talk about and review their favorite Star Wars content while also being gay as hell. I'm your host, Bradley Brower.
I'm your other host, Charles Rogers, and if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, it's because we fixed it and you went and resubscribed to the show.
There you
because
go.
As of recording we are now back on Apple Podcasts. Yay. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts, be sure to go back and listen to our episode 10 and 11 coverage. Those episodes would not have been pushed out to you because when we got it back online, and by we, I mean Bradley, who did all of the work for this, because I was dealing with something else at the time.
That's right.
But when Bradley got it back online, it had purged all of our reviews and all of our follow from it.
Right.
So if you've found us again, yay. Go back and listen to episodes 10 and 11. They were not pushed out to you. But Bradley is sent another fucking message to Apple to see if they can recover our follows. Because I hate that people would have to resubscribe to the show.
It does suck, but
That's
I feel like
aggravating.
if this is the content that you are listening to constantly, you'll find us again. It was meant for you.
You'll find us.
You'll find us again.
You'll find us.
I
Welcome
believe
back.
in the Force.
Yes, the Force. All is the Force wills it.
There you go.
It has been long. It has been a long. We're recording this like 4 days after the last one. So literally nothing but Comic-Con and my day job happened in between the recording of these episodes. And you can listen to me talk about why that's very frustrating in our extended segment at the beginning, which Bradley, if people are interested in listening to us try to figure out what the hell we're going to talk about for our warm-up, when literally I didn't do anything of note between the two, where can people do that?
They can go to patreon.com/Gold Squadron Gays and sign up for our $3 co-pilot level, where you can get extended episodes of our show and you get visual episodes as well, where you can see our lovely faces.
You're also seeing my wonderful Lord of the Rings and Podracer Legos that just happened to be behind the camera.
Glorious.
Because I leave my camera on. Bradley uses a background because
Yeah.
nothing interesting is happening in the room that Bradley
Nothing
is
is
currently
interesting
in.
happening right now. And once I am able to put my collection back up in a more permanent home, I feel like then I'll have a nice, decent background. But for right now, I'm going to just keep changing it based on whatever we're talking about. So
What are we talking about this week, Bradley?
this week, we're talking about Andor Season 2, Episode 12, Jedha, Kyber, Erso. Cassian returns to Yavin with intel that will change everything. Charles, what's one thing you liked about the finale and one thing you did not?
I liked the elements of Rogue One that they chose to bring because there were some of them that I was a bit surprised to see, but also helps like tie it into Rogue One a little bit more. And we'll talk about that as we start hitting them. But they made this feel like it was taking place 5 minutes before Rogue One. And part of that is there's a lot of people and locations that are in Rogue One that show up in this episode. One thing I disliked about this episode, we're going to put a pin in that because I feel like most of my dislikes are going to be covered by my opinion of the ending. I don't like the ending, and I will explain why I don't like the ending of this episode. I think they did a banger episode to lead us straight into Rogue One, and then they absolutely tripped and smashed their nose in the final few shots of the show.
Oh, okay.
And we will talk about why I think that is. So I'm going to hold my dislike over because that was the really big one. And I don't want to give it away up at the top. What about you, Bradley? One thing you liked and one thing you did not.
One thing I liked about this episode, I thought the action in the beginning that is technically the last episode is is good. The thing I didn't like is the structuring. I think it is a weird structured episode. I think honestly I like the ending, but the ending seems more like the end clip that you would watch after the show's over. Like it doesn't feel like the ending of this episode. So I'll just simplify it as that, and that'll just say I didn't quite like that part of it. But yeah, I think I don't know. Maybe I didn't like this episode. Maybe I didn't have anything I liked. I'm kind of trying to think of something, but I'm just like, I don't know. I didn't really care. Like it was kind of like I really liked the previous arc, and then it was kind of like this arc just I don't know. I just didn't care anymore. Something about it. I don't know what it is, but maybe we can get more into it as we go through the episode and we'll see.
Well, I know you've also talked about feeling like the last arc was the last point for you that Andor felt like it was its own thing. And it could also be that interestingly, the stuff I really liked, which is how well it ties into Rogue One, could be what's putting you off.
Maybe.
That it doesn't have much of an identity of its own, it feels like anymore.
Yeah,
Especially
because
not after the Clay and Luthen episode where Luthen
right.
dies.
I think you know what it is. I think when I was watching this too, I think I just kept being like, you could like edit this into Rogue One and then be like, oh, just make Rogue One better. Like just make it a little bit better by having a few extra scenes in it that were kind of taken out. And I feel like that's what I was thinking because I was like the whole time I was like, I could edit this back in. Like you could just like kind of squeak this into the beginning of Rogue One, call it a day. Like, you know what I mean? And this isn't really Andor anymore. I think that's exactly what it is. I don't
I
think it's
love
Andor anymore.
I love how much editing like your brain is getting into. I could re-edit that because you re-edited the Brindock episodes
There
of
you go.
Acolyte
That's right.
into one like giant episode,
That's right.
which nobody ever saw, but I saw it and it was really good.
I know what is it called? The Phantom Edit. It's like the same thing. It's like
Yeah, I've never watched the Phantom Edit.
no one. I don't know anyone who has. So I feel like there. Here we go. I have my own Phantom Edit, but it's
You have your own Phantom Edit, but it's for the Acolyte.
it's the Brendock episode.
We're about to have time to do a lot of weird shit.
There you go.
We should probably get into the episodes so that we can get back to doing 30-minute to an hour episodes.
Section 1. In the safe house, Clea doesn't want to go to Yavin 4, but she needs to repeat what she told them about the Death Star to the rebellion. At ISB control room, a technician reports that they've lost contact with the shuttle and only hear static. Hurt pushes for the raid to move forward anyways. Melshi steps out of the hall and runs into the ISB team who order him to surrender. He runs back inside, and the ISB team throw a stun grenade into the safe house, knocking out Cassian and Clea. Melshi remains conscious and fires back. K2SO arrives and fights through the ISB team, and he picks up Hurt at one point, using him as a human shield. Partagaz tries to organize reinforcements, but is told most of the ISB units are unavailable due to the disease lockdown. The rebels escape the building, board their U-Wing, and fly off.
We get a very embittered Clea at the start of this episode. And interesting that it starts that way, and it's going to be interesting to see how she continues to evolve. She is the strongest character in this arc, in my opinion. Cassian, I think, doesn't really change a lot in this arc.
Right.
He's pretty much like he was who he was going to be after Bix left. That was the end of his sort of. You can tell, we'll get to it a little bit later on. You can kind of tell where Cassian is going to potentially maybe have character development in the future past Rogue One, but currently he is the same person he is in Rogue One.
Right.
That he doesn't develop a lot in these episodes, whereas Clea has a whole journey throughout these episodes, and where she starts here, she's very bitter.
I do find that interesting because it's like it's not I'm not saying that they wrote themselves into a corner because they literally had to, because if you the premise is that this has to lead up to your movie that you wrote years ago, then the problem is you are forced to make your main character be like the way they are at the beginning of the movie. And I don't know, I feel like it sucks because it's hard to get from that place that Cassian is in to where he is at the beginning of Rogue One. And I understand it, but it's like that's why I think I said, when Bix leaves, it's kind of like his character arc is, like you said, it's over. Like he's kind of done. Like he's done all the changing he needs to change and do to be like, well, time for Rogue One. Like we can't really change him anymore.
Yeah, and something that's reflected to me too when Cassian talks to Clea, like about Yavin and about her role in the rebellion, that he tells her, like, come see the place that you helped build. He really credits her with the like formation of the rebellion and playing a really huge part in that. A lot of people don't even know that, and a lot of the people that are going to know her in association with Luthen are going to discount her because of her association with Luthen. But Cassian has matured at this point gone from not really trusting Luthen to continuing to not really trust Luthen to he never really actually trusts Luthen. That's
Right.
never a thing that happens, but we'll sort of get to where Cassian will lay it out for us actually later on in this episode. And I think it's interesting that he's kind of having to pull Clea along on this journey with him and pull her to Yavin, where she's gonna, spoilers for the rest of the episode, she's gonna actually she's gonna take some of her first steps towards healing. My next note is just K2 is the best. There are several K2 moments in this, and I didn't want to write all of them down, but every moment he's on screen is flawless.
A- And that's why I'm so mad that he's not in more episodes. Like it's so like underused because it's so good. But I understand like because of literally he is the literal problem solver. Like it's like, oh, we're being cornered by the ISP. What do? We get our giant robot to fucking bail us out of the problem. Like, and yeah, and I get it. And that's like an easy way to write. Like, okay, we're done with this problem because our big robot saved us because that's an easy thing to write. But it's just kind of like, I still wanted to see more of him. I know it's hard to do that and not be like, well, K2SO can solve all of our problems. Like but I want him to.
One of the most frustrating things to happen to writers in the past 20 or 20, 30 years was the invention of the cell phone. And the reason I bring this up is because your comment about K2SO reminded me of that. Is that a lot of plot before like
Oh,
2010
right.
simply would not happen if the participants had
Had a
cell
cell
phones.
phone. Yep.
And when you are attempting to write a plot that is supposed to be set in the quote unquote present day, a really big problem you have to solve is how do you account for the fact that anybody can text anyone or call anyone or Google anything at any given time?
Yeah.
And I feel like that's the problem they would have had with K2. Why don't you just call your giant murder robot?
Right.
Is the Star Wars version of why don't you just Google it on your cell phone?
Yeah. It would be you would solve a lot of your problems.
Now, one thing too that I wanted to bring up, I sort of talked a little bit last time about the parallels between the ISB task force and the Corpos
Right.
from the very beginning of the first season. But I want to draw a parallel between Hurt and Cyril specifically.
Okay.
And a thought that I had while I was watching this the first time was, oh, I wonder if this could have been Cyril. And then I realized it sort of takes something away from it if it is Cyril that
Okay.
leads the task force at the end. It kind of has to be somebody else. And the reason I figured it had to be somebody else was because all of these fucking pasty little weirdos think that they're unique and special.
Hmm.
Hurt thinks, from what we can tell of him, and we don't get a lot with him, but he has a lot of the same personality traits as Cyril. And I think one of the points that the show seems to be making is that none of these people are special or unique. There's 1,000 of the same type of weird guy
Hmm.
that's propping up these systems. To that end, once I realized that, I was like, oh, I like this a lot, actually, that they've paralleled Hurt and Cyril. And I do kind of wish that we'd gotten more content because, like, we didn't get a lot about the relationship between Hurt and Dedra in this season because it's very antagonistic.
Right.
I thought that would have been interesting to see juxtaposed with Dedra's romantic relationship with Cyril,
Right.
but
They
we didn't get to see it.
Yeah, but again, that's cutting room floor stuff. Like it's like, oh, if the season was longer or the show was longer, then yes, we probably would have gotten more of their relationship. Therefore, we would have got more characterization from her and not just, random fascist twink. Like we would have just gotten like a little bit more.
Yes, and we were starting to get some in season one, but regrettably we don't get it. We
Yeah.
also it bothers me to a certain extent that Blevin never comes back. The
Yeah.
guy, the supervisor that
Where did
Dedra
he
takes over
go?
Ferrex from, yeah, he just disappears between seasons.
I mean,
I guess they didn't have anything for him to do.
oh no, what's the running joke is that everybody who doesn't show up again is like, oh, they work on the Death Star now.
Yes, they sent Blevin to go work on the Death Star now.
Yep, that's
Yep.
that's exactly he got sent to the Death Star to go work.
Blevin's the guy who sent the email to Dedra by mistake
Ooh, there you go.
instead of sending it to Legret. We'll get to fucking Legret in a minute.
Yeah.
Melshi walking out and then running back is super funny, and I don't know why.
I feel like Melshi could have been at like if there was more time again to develop characters, he could have been a kind of comic relief. It could have been
Absolutely.
like a
Duncan Powell's very funny in this role.
I think he could have been more of a like a not like a like a juxtaposed to K2SO's comedy, which is like dry, like really dry humor kind of thing. His would have been a little bit more like he's the lovable goofball kind
He's a
of
wacky guy. He's a
character.
slapstick
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah, slapsticky. Like I feel like that's something we don't have in Star Wars a lot because of, obvious reasons. And I feel like that's something that he probably could have done a little bit.
Yeah, it's the original movies actually that I rewatched them recently are much more slapsticky than I remember.
Yeah.
Like people say that the Disney movies, Disney era movies, like added that sort of fast-paced humor in. And I'm like, did you watch Empire recently? There's definitely some moments of that very fast-paced bantering comedy in it.
Right.
Like they're not as serious as you remember them being. They're ridiculous movies for children.
I love that.
Speaking of the slapstick though, I did have to point out too that they're having this argument about whether to close the door. And I just want to bring up for our audience to remember again that Cassian and Melshi are both kind of drunk.
This is true. I was wondering about that because I was like, Cassian, I was like, let close the door. Why are you leaving it? It makes no sense to leave it open. He's just like, no, 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 no. I think we should leave the door open. Like,
Yeah, because he's been drinking.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I kind of love that.
And
Is
we
my
did
like in my head.
establish, we will establish later in the episode, this is the same day.
Right.
Because hyperspace moves at the speed of plot, so they can get from Yavin to
Sure.
Coruscant in an hour.
It's not far.
Yeah, they're right next to each
They're
other.
neighbors, right? I haven't looked at the new map recently, but I'm not sure if that's actually true or
I am not
not.
that kind of nerd.
Right?
I am a different kind of nerd. I will say though that a detail that I didn't notice the first two times I watched this, because once again, I watch it myself and then I watch it with my boyfriend and then I watch it to take notes for this show. When Cassian regains his senses after the stun grenade goes off, Clay is still unconscious. Cassian throws his body on top of her
To protect her
and
from
is
the
shielding
gunfire.
her
Yeah.
with his body. He is like it's so frenetic that he can't like drag her out of the way, so he physically shields her with his body. It's a very tiny detail, but I loved
Yeah.
it. Another thing that I loved was K2SO's terrifying hallway sequence. There are now four of these things in Star Wars.
There you go. I was gonna say, I was trying to count them in my head. Like, how many are there
There
in
are
Star
four.
Wars? There's four. Okay, I
There are
like it.
four that I can remember off the top of my head, and they are Darth Maul in the Clone Wars season 7, Darth Vader in Rogue One, and Luke Skywalker in The Mandalorian season 2.
Oh, okay.
And now K2SO
I love.
gets a terrifying hallway sequence. My next note is RIP here, you fucking pincushion.
I know it's not supposed to be like LOL funny, but it is funny. Like,
Oh, that guy's a fucking imperial piece of shit. Like that guy's
no,
an awful person.
no, I
I
know
am not.
that.
It
Yeah,
is
but
hilarious. It is hilarious when he gets his like fucking. I don't know if he got his neck broken or
no, I
he
think that's
was
what happens. I think
he was
K2SO
dead.
picks him up by his neck, breaks his neck, and then just continues to hold him for some strange reason to block the gunfire, I
I'm
guess.
gonna go on record and say I'm not sad about that.
I mean, it's not
That's
sad, but it's
it's what he
funny. Like
deserved.
well, in what way though? Because I feel like I'm not defending him in any way, shape, or form, but he is there just to arrest people. Like it's not like he's not very important in the overall structure of the story,
He's
really.
a
Like,
supervisor in the ISB.
right.
That
So
it,
he's,
like he is that is an interesting point though that you
yeah,
bring up. He is a terrible piece of shit, and we
sure.
know this because he's a supervisor in the ISB. But yes, now that you mention it, Hurt really didn't have a lot of time to do anything villainous, did he?
He hasn't, I mean, other than closing down the hospital, I guess, but really, like, what?
Yeah,
But that was
he
a
closed.
temporary thing.
Hurt actually got his role majorly reduced to basically just being like either a guy who is there or a
Yeah.
contrast to Dedra.
Yeah, because
Like
he didn't have to die. I mean, like, he didn't even have to go on this mission theoretically. So
he
I
probably
guess
shouldn't have been here.
his hubris maybe is why he died because like he was like, oh, I'm gonna go just solve this real quick, like, you know what I mean, like it's kind of one of those things like, oh, if someone's gonna do it right, it's gonna be me kind of thing. I guess that's my only excuse to why he put himself in this situation like when he didn't have to, because the what was it, the technicians like, hey, we don't know what's going on, so like we probably shouldn't go in because there's like static and clearly our guys got attacked. Like we don't know what's going on. So hold off on the raid because we don't really have any information right now. And he goes out of his way to be like, no, we're gonna go in anyway. We're here, we're ready to go. We have them cornered. And he overestimates how his superiority in this situation. Like he's just kind of like, I got this. And I think that's really what gets him killed. But it's also kind of like if he didn't really do that, he'd be fine. Like I feel like there's nothing that bad
Yeah,
that's
he
ever gonna happen to him.
yeah, he didn't really actually do anything. And yeah, if he had not gone on the raid, he probably would have ended up surviving
Right,
because
because ultimately it was
Legret
Dedra,
gets to
right?
fucking yeah, Legret gets to fucking live
Yeah, and
after
he doesn't,
fucking up the
yeah.
Mon Mothma thing. Legret is the only survivor from the ISB.
I guess when we get to that scene, we'll have to talk more about that because I
Well,
feel
we'll
like, yeah,
talk
that,
more
yeah,
about
yeah, yeah,
that.
yeah. Let's
Yeah,
move
it
on because
is.
yeah, yeah,
Now that
it
you
is
mentioned
interesting.
it, it is kind of weird because it's like we know he's got to be doing some whack shit because he's an ISB supervisor, but then like we
Right.
never see him do it.
And I also think it's kind of a brutal way to go for someone who didn't really do that much. Like it's kind of like, oof. What possesses K2SO to do this? I don't know, but it's very
It's
funny.
an Imperial officer, and therefore, literally anything K2SO did to him was justified.
It's so funny. Well, it's so weird
There
because
are
it's
no
also
good Imperial, there are no decent Imperial officers in canon, at least none that I can think of off the top of my head. No, I'm struggling to think of any because Legends did this. Like they had Imperial officers that were like quote unquote good officers. Gilad Paleon being the big one. He's canon, but we don't know anything about him.
hmm.
Canon doesn't really do. Canon, at the very least, remembered that the Empire is supposed to be the bad guys.
Yeah, because also every time there's a quote unquote bad guy who ends up being quote unquote a good guy, they either A, atone for their sins or whatever, or they're secretly evil. They're like, they're not really evil, but like they're
Right.
just pretending to be.
Yeah.
And then they,
Callus doesn't become a decent person until after character development. I know
right.
people have already come into my DMs to tell me what about Agent
That's
Callus.
kind of where I was going with this. Yeah, it's kind of like,
And to
eh,
my response is Callus starts out as a massive piece of shit who
right.
brags about murdering people he didn't actually do so he can make himself look tough while he tries to actively kill children.
Yeah,
He
it's
doesn't succeed because fortunately he's dealing with a Jedi children, but he does do terrible things in the first two seasons. He
sure.
is a-okay with everything Vader does in the Siege of Lothal. It's only after he has his big gay awakening with Zeb on the Ice Moon that he starts to have character development. Anytime we see an Imperial that's like a good person, inevitably they leave the Empire.
Right. It's never someone
They
who's like,
leave the Empire or they
I'm
died.
here.
It's
Yeah,
never Empire. It's never somebody who stays in the
right.
Empire. And
Exactly.
that's, I think, part of the difference. Speaking of Imperial officers, shout out to Anton Lesser for being really good, just because he has a sequence where he finds out that they got away and he realizes, yeah, I'm dead. And Anton Lesser just acts it beautifully with his face. We see some Coruscant gunships, which is really cool. I love seeing those. It's one of my favorite Lego sets that I own. And my final note on this section is K2 is so bitchy,
As he should be.
as he should be.
Section 2. Mon, Bale, and Draven speak with Saw via holo projector about the partisans' actions on Jedha. A lieutenant enters and reports that the stolen U-Wing is approaching and is requesting to land. Draven suspects it's Cassian returning and leaves to intercept it. At the hangar, Cassian confirms their identities and Clea's condition, prompting Draven to send medics to escort her to the infirmary. Draven has Cassian brought to a meeting with the rebel leaders, and when asked why he broke protocol, Cassian says he was trying to save Luthen, who is now dead, and that Clea has urgent information to share. Cassian explains that Clea told him about an ISB informant who learned that the Emperor's energy project is actually a cover for a superweapon. Radis asks for details, but Cassian doesn't know the weapon's full nature. Bale questions Cassian's objectivity due to his loyalty to Luthen, and Cassian defends Luthen, saying the rebellion owes him more than they realize. Bale suspects Luthen was fed ISB disinformation and blames his secrecy for undermining trust. He ends the session, ordering Cassian grounded and confined. Draven moves to escort him out, and Cassian requests to visit Clea, which Mon allows.
I just wanted to show you what you're about to sign up for here, Bradley. So I'm going to show you on the screen. These are my notes. That was the break of the last section. That's the break in the next section.
All right, rapid fire. Let's go. I'm
Brace
ready.
yourself. Brace yourself. I have a lot of notes here on
Okay.
this one.
I figured this was
Uh,
either going to be your favorite scene of all time, and I just knew it.
Note number one. Does Saw just randomly call Mon Mothma to complain?
Constantly.
Because if so, that is iconic behavior.
Constantly.
Just casually calls her to whine at her about how she's spying on him.
Yeah. Which I kind of love that Draven's like, yeah, we've had people in the Parsons for a while
Yeah,
now.
that was
Like, yeah,
oh, that was one of my later notes, but I'll say it
yeah,
here.
yeah.
No, I absolutely love that they end it and like you expect the rebellion wouldn't do this, and Draven's like, oh no, yeah, we were totally spying on him.
Totally spying on them. Yeah,
We are
for sure.
totally spying on him.
Well, that's what I like about Draven because I feel like the rest of the rebellion or the I'm sorry, the rest of the Rebel Alliance, they're very like we're organized, we're like we do things the right way, like these, we have to be the good guys kind of thing. And Draven's over here like, what are y'all talking about? We spy on people all the fucking time. Like we do bad shit too.
Draven,
Like
12 hours from now, Draven's gonna be like, yeah, just ignore everything you heard in that briefing. I want you to fucking murder a guy.
that's what I'm saying. Draven is hardcore. He's like he's so good. I love it.
Oh yeah, he's gonna get killed by Darth Vader personally.
Mm, well, that happens.
So shout out to Draven. He's gonna get fucking murdered by Darth Vader because there really wasn't any other way this guy was gonna go out. Mon has had a costume change. She is now wearing a costume that is the next step towards the iconic rebellion costume, which she will wear for the first time in Rogue One, and then she'll be wearing it in her first appearance in Return of the Jedi. But I do love that she's got the chain now. She's got her various chains of office.
I just like how her hair is now the muted kind of like
Oh
version of her
yeah.
hair. Yeah.
No, she's
She's
like it's
full on
really
evolving
interesting.
into the New Hope Mon Mothma.
Well, yeah, and it's this whole show, she has been glammed up to the max,
I know that's what I love about
right?
her, but yeah.
And it's been a great character, but here's the first time we're seeing Mon Mothma as we know her.
Mm,
And she's got the chain of office, but she's wearing plain white robes. She is not wearing the glitzy makeup. She's got her hair cut short and practical. And it's such a stark departure from everything we've seen from her in the show. But she also looks, one, she looks more like at ease. But two, she has lost exactly none of her regal bearing. In fact, she's got more of it. The way she carries herself is different now.
yeah.
Bail Organa is also here.
He's just a
We
guy.
know fuck all about him being here. He said he was going to be here this year. He's here
He
now.
got here. He did. He
We don't
promised.
know if he resigned the Senate. We don't know if he is still a senator. I think Ash will know. I should
No.
I should ask Ash later if Bale is still a senator.
Well,
But within the context of the show, we don't know, like, did he have to spirit himself here? Is he able to just go back and forth between Yavin and
because
Coruscant
I'm
now?
trying to think because like in this conversation alone, I'm just gonna use this as the evidence because I don't really have too much context. But in this conversation, at one point, he does say something like they're talking about the energy program, and he says like, "Oh yeah, we did that." Da, 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 da. And then I'm like, the way he says it though is like, "Oh, we had a conversation about it like not like recently." So I feel like he's not so removed maybe, but also I'm trying to go back to like A New Hope and Leia's like I'm on a diplomatic mission, so she's still in good standing, so that would mean that maybe
It's
he's still in good standing.
tricky. Yeah, I think he has to still be a senator at this point. Yeah,
Right, because she's like I'm a
he would
senator
have to be.
ambassador or whatever, like
So
yeah,
again, not to keep bringing it back to Legends, but I'm gonna keep bringing it back to Legends.
because you're obsessed.
In Legends, apparently, yeah, can't imagine why. In Legends, apparently, Bale resigned
Oh, interesting.
and Leia got elected to the Senate. So she
That
replaced him.
could be
So in the
interesting.
Legends continuity, in A New Hope, she's the senator and he's the viceroy of Alderaan.
Oh, okay. So
I
maybe
don't
he
know whether he's still the senator in because I don't recall him saying anything about it.
But that would be a good way for him to like leave without leaving. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, I
Yeah.
have to go do my duties on Alderaan now as the viceroy or whatever. So I'm gonna let my teenage daughter take over as senator.
Yes, she be
Which,
considered like
sure,
a
it makes sense.
ridiculously young age. She's the youngest person elected to the Senate. In some of the Legends comics that I
There you
read.
go.
So my point is, there's more about Bale in this. Like, why is Bale here? That I
Right.
want to know that we don't have time to talk about. Saul says you have no idea where I am, thus again spawning tens of thousands of wonderful memes. Shout out to the internet. I love the internet and hate the internet in equal measure. But Saul is ranting and raving because he is fully paranoid to the point where he has gotten in Rogue One.
Right.
This is the end of Saw's character arc from going reasonably paranoid in season one to where he's at now, where
Right.
he's just ranting at them. And also, here's one of the interesting things about Saw Gerrera. He is kind of right about most major things. Like, he was right about the Death Star. He was right about them spying on him. He was right about Onderon. He was right about the Empire. But he's just right about everything in the worst possible ways. And I don't know how he does it.
I, d- I don't know.
One way this did sort of work for me is that Bale, they do an interesting thing with Bale, who's a character we generally like, but Bale doesn't know Cassian Andor. So when he
Right.
learns what Cassian did, he's like, this is fucking stupid. Like,
Right. Why would he
what
do
the
this? Why
fuck?
would he steal the
It
ship? Why would
makes
he do?
it
Yeah,
makes
yeah.
total sense that Bale, who doesn't know Cassian, would be like, this is dumb. And I love that they didn't make it like one of the other fuck ass senators. They made it a guy we like, is the one saying this is stupid. It's a
Right.
really interesting concept. I wish we had done something beyond one episode with it.
Again, if we had more time.
If we had more time,
I was gonna say, I think I'd be curious to see what a novelization would be like for this show, like to pad it out, and to like be like, let's add into the boring stuff that we wouldn't show on TV kind of thing. And and I say boring, but I mean more like, you know, just more stuff. Like I can't explain it. Like it would just be more like we get scenes that we wouldn't have seen or inner monologues and things like that. Like I feel like a novelization of Andor would be a helpful and B I think would help solve some of the problems of this season, which would be just there's just a few things we're just missing that we just needed to add in
yeah,
because we
there's just
couldn't do three
context we
seasons. Right.
need.
Right.
And that's what novelizations do generally, or any sort of adaptation. I would love to see them do like some sort of adaptation of this or uh, try it from a different angle. Part of the problem with the state of society being as obsessed with canon as it is we can't have different interpretations of the same
Right.
thing anymore.
From a
And
certain point of
you
view.
often find, yeah, you often find that like telling the same story in different ways can open up different avenues. You could never do the fucking scene in the Revenge of the Sith novelization where, after finding out that Palpatine is Sidious and having the worst moment of his life, having everything he believes shattered, Anakin is gently sat down by Palpatine and handed a glass of water and coached through his shock, which is a real thing that happens in the novelization. And they have an extended discussion in the guise of Palpatine trying to like calm him down because he's just had like his whole life turned upside down. And it is a phenomenal scene that would never work in the movie.
Interesting.
You have to read this fucking book. It's I have talked about it multiple times, Bradley. I promise you at some point there's an unabridged audiobook version of it narrated by Jonathan Davis, who is a longtime Star Wars narrator. You just got to read this. You just got to trust me. You just got to read this. It will change your whole perspective on Star Wars. Speaking of things that happened in Revenge of the Sith, I want to shout out Genevieve O'Reilly and Benjamin Bratt for being phenomenal actors because even though it's not Genevieve O'Reilly and Jimmy Smits, who've been playing Bail Organa and Mon Mothma for 20 years, I fully believe that this Bail Organa and this Mon Mothma are lifelong friends.
Okay.
I fully buy it just from the body language choices and the dialogue choices, like the way that she says it like being in the Senate was easier, huh, to him. Like I buy it. I believe it. I believe this is Bail Organa and I believe they're friends. I also need to shout out a couple things from Rogue One. We get the same comm officer who runs across the deck to inform Mon Mothma that Radis has taken the fleet to Scarif. They got that same actor back
Oh,
to be a
dang.
random comms guy in this.
I love that.
Not only did they get him back, they got Admiral Radis back
Right.
and recreated the suit,
He looks good.
which it looks great. So we get the sequence where Cassian and K2 and Melshi and Clay are coming in. My only note from this little sequence is that the little wave that K2SO does
Oh yeah, at the X-Wing pilots, he's just kind
at
of
the
like, "Hey
X-Wing
guys."
pilots. I do also have to own up to a thing Charles fucked up.
Okay.
I did say in the last episode that Willman was barely going to be in this one, that we were only going to get one scene of him and it was going to be confined to quarters. I'm an idiot. I don't know
Mm.
why I thought that. There are significant shots of Willman in this. He has a whole sequence with Cassian that I completely forgot about.
Ah, yes.
But we have to cut back to the briefing room to have another scene in it
Right.
with more people. The assholes from Rogue One are back.
I
Palmo and Jebel from Rogue One are now back.
mean, you
Same actors.
you got to have people in there who are gonna have the nay, right? You got to have the nays always.
They
Like,
are they are wonderful. I can't remember the name of that actor who plays Jebel, but he is fantastic at being a smarmy asshole.
oh yeah, yeah. You're like, I hate this guy, and he's
I
supposed to
hate
be a
this
part of the
guy
rebellion. Yeah,
immediately.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
hate this guy immediately.
And he's part of the
And
Rebel Alliance. He's supposed to be like, you're supposed to be like,
he
hell yeah. Like, yeah.
becomes the like treasury secretary for the New Republic. He's the Alexander Hamilton. And I know that I just made a lot of people very angry when I
I
said
was
that.
gonna say,
I also just want to seed here. It's going to be important when I talk about my final point of everything. Here is where the Rebel Alliance first finds out about the existence of a super weapon.
okay,
So they know that there's a weapon, and they know that someone named Galen Erso is working on it.
okay,
That full name, Galen Erso.
right, because Cassian
So they
says
have
it.
been
Yeah.
told it. Yes. And again, I also want to mention it's very specific that Cassian knows the name Galen Erso, but also nobody believes him about the weapon because the only source is Luthen. And I
Right,
want us to keep that in mind in this scene. The only source that they have is Clea via Luthen, or Luthen via Clea.
right,
Sorry, to Cassian, to them.
right.
Keep
Because
that in
they're like, I
mind.
think they say things like, "Can we trust her?" Blah 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 blah. Yeah.
Yeah, and Bale's also a dick in this scene, but like he does have a point. Like he's
Sure. Yeah.
asking
Why
a
should we trust?
reasonable
Yeah, yeah.
question where he's like, you're talking a chain of custody that literally went through one person,
That we got the
Lonnie to
information
Luthen
from,
to
right.
Clea.
ISB.
How
Yeah.
do we know that Luthen? Because Lonnie only told it to Luthen.
Right.
Lonnie didn't tell it to Luthen and Clea. There was a point where it was a singular person, which was Luthen. Then Diego Luna finally gets to give a speech. He has not really gotten to give a speech in the show full of speeches. He finally gets to give one. And this is the point where he really lays out like the relationship between Cassian and Luthen has been such an integral part of this show. And this is kind of the apex of that, where he says, yeah, Luthen was kind of a piece of shit,
Right.
but there were good things about him. And like he was a complicated dude, he was a messy dude. He's not a good face of the rebellion. He's not a guy that totally lived up to the rebellion's ideas or ideals, but he's a guy who believed in it and a guy who believed in those ideals. It's a great speech. I don't have a lot of notes in it, but I do want to return to those senators again.
Okay.
And I want to make a note that these are senators, these people that are here. I'm going to exclude Bale from this. The other two came in after Mon publicly denounced Palpatine.
Mm,
Mon did the hard part, and then other people joined the rebellion.
right.
And Palma was an ally of Bail Organa's in the Senate, but Mon was the first to speak out publicly. And that's the thing with these senators. They waited for somebody else to do the hard part.
Right.
My final note is I like that they do a hand wavy line to explain why Dodonna and Merrick are not here.
Other than the fact that they're from the 70s and they're
Well, they were both in Rogue One, but I guess they just couldn't get the actors back.
gotcha.
So they chose
Yeah,
not to
that is
have
kind of
Dodonna and Merrick
strange.
there.
I wonder why they're not there. I mean, other than just because they couldn't get them. You know
The
what I mean? Like,
actors are well.
yeah.
Also, the guy that played Dodonna in Rogue One was old, like when they filmed Rogue One. I'm pretty sure
Mm,
he's still alive and still acting, but he
mm.
might not have been able to come in and do it. And the guy who played Merrick probably was just busy.
Section 3. On the way to the village, Draven tells Cassian that Tivik is on Kafrene and recently sent multiple urgent messages. Cassian visits Clea, who is injured and recovering, and tries to comfort her, admitting the leadership is still processing the intel she shared. Elsewhere, Mon speaks privately with Vel, confirming Luthen's death and Cassian's grounding. Vel urges Mon to be cautious, but Mon asks her to help believe in Cassian rather than spy on him. Meanwhile, Cassian reunites with Wilman in the village, informs him of Luthen's death, and says it was worth it. They share a quiet moment before Draven learns that the contact on Kafrene insists on speaking with only Cassian. In the rain, Cassian and Vel share drinks and toast to their fallen allies, and Cassian defends Luthen's legacy and insists that Clea wouldn't lie.
This is our first mention of Tivik, and this is one of my big disappointments of this season.
Mhm.
is
That
that
we have
I
no the
was
fuck.
really hoping we would get some explanation as to how, like, why is Tivik calling Cassian
Yeah, because
specifically? Why
other
does he
than
refuse to talk to anybody else?
well, because think about it like this. Yes, we know the name because we saw the movie. We're not stupid. However, there's if you're not watching the movie or if you're watching them in order and you're doing a first steps watch of this, you're like, who the fuck is Tivik? This
Yeah, he
doesn't
just comes out of nowhere.
he's a nobody, like it doesn't mean anything. In the context of just the show, and you have to look at it as the context of just the show. You can't be like, oh, there's a supporting movie that goes along with this. You have to look at it by it has to stand on its own. This is kind of bad writing because like who the fuck is Tivik? We don't explain who he is. Doesn't make any sense. We don't even say like what he is. We're
Yeah, they never even explain that, and
they're
that
just
would have
like
been like
he's calling.
one of your contacts is calling you, or
Right.
like
Okay.
one of his is he one of Cassian's spy network contacts? Is he
Right, what
somebody
is
that
he?
Cassian specifically inserted into the partisans? Is he a
Right.
partisan defector who just refuses to talk to anybody except for Cassian? We don't know.
Is he his boyfriend? Like we don't know. Is his personal call?
Yeah,
Like
did they
what
hook
is
up at
the
some
right?
point?
We
Like,
don't
I'm sure
fucking
they
know.
probably did, but like,
No, but like seriously, I just this is probably my biggest ugh of the episode because I'm just kind of like, yeah, I'm a nerd. I know who Tivik is because I saw the movie and I like the movie and I remember the name. I feel bad for the people who watch this like without any knowledge and we're just kind of like, what the fuck are they talking about? Like it's just a random thing, like a random name thrown there. Because if they had just said contact and not thrown out Tivik's name, then I would have been a little bit more because I feel like the audience is supposed to just know who that is. And I feel like if you don't say his name and you're just like, there's a contact trying to call you, that's different because we have not put a face to it. If we're smart and we saw the movie, we might know what he's talking about.
we would know like, oh,
Right.
it's that guy from the beginning of the movie. And
Exactly.
also like one of the things too about that sequence in the movie, and maybe they just couldn't get the actor back. Like it's possible that could have been
That's
the
true.
case. Like there's any number of production reasons that this could have happened, but there's also ways I think you could have written around this.
Right.
Or you mentioned Tivik earlier in the show
Or
where
have
we
him in
could
an
have,
episode. Yeah.
well, if you can't get the actor back,
Oh,
there's
true, true,
ways to
true, true.
write it. And where
Yeah.
here it just sort of comes out of nowhere. And part of the thing with that scene is that it is implied that these two have a lot of history, and it is implied that Cassian shooting him is this big act of like, I'll do anything for the rebellion. I'll murder one of
Yeah.
my friends to get away with this information. And it does kind of fall a little hollow in the broader context of, because you have to view everything in its own context, but then
Right.
when you're dealing with a franchise like Star Wars, and particularly something that was specifically designed to work with something else, you do kind of have to view it in the broad context. Tivik just kind of comes out of nowhere,
Right.
and we're not really provided a lot here
I
for him.
needed more of their connection because like the in the beginning of Rogue One, it's very brutal in that like this guy clearly trusts Cassian with this information and he's like, "Oh, I need to give you this. This is really important." And then Cassian is pretty brutal and just kills his friend slash contact and is just like, "I got to get the information. Like that's the most
Right.
important thing." So it takes away a little bit, I think, just because I don't get it. Like I don't understand their connection. Like I want to be like they're actually brothers or something. Like I need something. Like you got to give me a little bit here.
I love that Mon just has the key to Vel's house.
She's like, "Hey, I'm here."
She's just like, hey, I let myself in. I'm
Of
making
course.
myself tea.
That's the sitcom. It's Vel's house,
Yep.
and it's just the
Vel's
random
house.
people that come and drink tea with Vel throughout the day.
Everybody has the key to Vel's house. They just
Sure.
wander in and out.
Absolutely.
Uh, I also, something that happens with the scene, because Mon sends Vel essentially to go spy on Cassian. And she does play spy games now. You remember how opposed she was to everything at the start of the season. Now she's kind of playing spy games, but she has really good reasons to do it. She's trying to verify Cassian's information because she wants to believe Luthen. She's too smart to just buy this.
Right.
But unlike Bale, she does want to believe Luthen because she knew Luthen. And so I love the line, help me believe him.
Right. Because
Because
Mon wants to believe it. She's like,
right.
I need to know this is real, but I just can't trust really Luthen. I
She's
mean,
good at
it's
her job.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
We get the sequence with the last survivors of Aldani, which is like a freight train. My favorite little touch in this scene was that it is Cassian who says Cinta's name, and it is Vel who references Marva.
Right.
I loved that. I also love Vel just straight up tells Cassian her secret mission. She is a terrible spy.
She's like, hey, here's
She's
the
like, hey,
thing.
bestie, my cousin needs to know, are you fucking crazy?
Right. Are you just fucking with her?
And then we get our final shot of Clea before we transition to the next scene, who's still kind of in shock. Like she is currently processing a lot of the emotion that she could not feel in the last 2.5 episodes.
Right.
But then we move into the next scene seamlessly. Which what is the next scene?
Section 4. Clea reflects on Nemec's manifesto as his words about rising rebellion and invisible enlistment echo. At the same time, Partagaz listens alone at the ISB conference room, highlighting the spreading impact of Nemec's message, and Supervisor Legret arrives and informs Partagaz that he's under arrest. After asking for a moment alone, Partagaz retrieves a blaster and takes his own life. Legret quietly stops the stormtroopers from entering outside and lowers his head in silence. Back on Yavin 4, Vel urges Cassian to reconnect with Bix, but he worries about her safety if they're together. Vel encourages him not to wait too long. In the rain, Vel finds Clea and brings her into her home. They speak about Luthen's death, and Vel reminds her that she has friends everywhere and leaves her to rest. Meanwhile, Melshi and K2SO are released and join Cassian. Draven arrives and tells Cassian that Tivik is on Kafrene and insists on meeting only with him. With Tivik reaching out, Draven suspects a potential trap, and that night he and Mon approach Bale to discuss it further.
It is really, really cool to hear Nemec's manifesto from season one spreading throughout the galaxy. It comes the fuck out of nowhere.
I thought it was going to be like the ending, and I was like,
Yeah,
why is it randomly here?
there is no preamble to this.
It is strange,
Cassian has it at the end of season one.
right?
So it's likely that Cassian released it. That's probably what happened.
I'm assuming that's why
I,
Partagaz has it.
I'm assuming, well, he says that it's like it's spreading. So
Right.
presumably Cassian released it at some point in the last 4 years.
And now it's just getting bigger and
It's
more
getting
interesting.
bigger
Yeah.
and bigger and bigger. It was never referenced at
Ever. Yeah.
all in this season.
Right.
And so when it came back again, it kind of came out of nowhere. And they were just like, oh, the
This thing.
subversive propaganda is spreading. And I'm like,
Yeah.
that's really cool. Would have loved to have any context for this or any. It's like they fired the gun that they forgot to put on the wall in Act One.
Yeah.
This is like and I'm talking within the context of season two
Right.
because they never bring it up, they never reference it, they never really explain how like it started getting disseminated. It's just like there now, which this is still an effective scene because one, the manifesto is fucking amazing.
Sure.
Two, Alex Lothar's performance of it remains one of the best fucking monologues of the show, which I don't know how, but it is. And three, Anton Lesser is absolutely killing it, really selling this. But yeah, plot wise, it just sort of comes out of nowhere.
I feel like it would have worked better in the Gorman kind of arc if they had had them listen to it or whatever as like a preamble to like the actual Gorman arc. So I feel like it would have worked really well in arc 2 where they were
Yes.
like listening to it, getting the idea, building the idea of, oh, we need to also be a rebellion kind of thing. Then that would be a nice seeding of it there. And then you can have party guys listening to it here and being like, "Ugh, it's spreading. It was on Gorman. It was now it's here. Like, that
Yeah.
would make a little bit more sense to me, I think. If that's, I mean, I think it's creepy and weird, and I love that he's just like listening to it in his office, like as a reminder to himself, like, God damn it. Like, like I kind of love that because it's kind of sad in a way too, because Partagaz has like one of the more interesting kind of plots here that he's just like sympathetic. Like I think it is so strange because you
You
feel
you
bad for him.
feel for this fucking ISB piece of shit.
Yeah, it's really strange.
Because Anton Lesser is really selling the genuine human emotions that he's having,
Yeah.
but he's also having genuine human emotions about being a piece of shit.
Yeah.
So it's interesting what this show has done with the Imperial characters to where it makes all of them sympathetic people that we can understand, but never lets them off the hook for the
Right.
the evil things that they do.
They all get a
They
punishment
are
in the end. Yeah.
they are perpetrating an evil system.
Right.
They are at heart awful people.
Right.
because they are willingly participating in and propping up this system.
Exactly.
But they all have they're human beings. They're not like cold, emotionless robot, which I think is something interesting that the show really did. Like this is a very dark ending for Partagaz, but
Yeah.
I also find it interesting because like the implication is he's always kind of known this was coming because he's had the gun in his desk the whole time.
We're ready to go. Yeah.
Like it was charged and ready to go the whole time, which is an interesting piece of visual storytelling that he always knew that he was not going to make it out of this alive.
And now this is what kind of leads into like Legret. So I feel
Why
like
the fuck does this guy get to stay alive?
okay, so this is so interesting. This is so fascinating, I should say. It's not interesting, it's fascinating because I feel like Legret goes in there to tell him like, "Hey, they want you downstairs. I told them I would come get you because like I'm trying to be respectful because you are technically my boss, even though you're about to get arrested, and I want to be the one because I don't want it to look bad for you. You know what I mean? I want you to just go in like quiet peace where no, it's not embarrassing for you, kind of like protect your ego kind of thing." And then he's like, "Give me a moment." And he's like, "I got you, dude." I'm not quite sure if Legret knows what he's gonna do.
He knows. He
Okay,
knows. And I can tell you how I know he knows.
okay.
Because he doesn't flinch.
Oh, when he goes outside and yeah,
When he goes outside and he's standing outside and there's the gunshot, Legret does not flinch. Legret was already braced and he knew it was coming, and his reaction to the stormtroopers, his hand moves at the same time they do.
right.
Like basically almost at the same time.
He's like, "Stop. It's okay.
He
We're good."
absolutely covered for Partagaz
Okay,
to, yeah.
I like that. I think it's kind of like also again, I hate saying this. It's endearing to the Legret character. I mean, like he let him
Yeah,
have
I
this
want to
final.
know what this friendship between Partagaz, like Partagaz clearly had deep friendships with Legret and Krennic and other people that we never got to see.
I'm telling you, that's why I want to see more of that.
Hmm. So jumping back to Yavin, Vel clearly knows something that she's not saying to Cassian because she looked in on Bix and clearly has information Cassian doesn't.
I was gonna say I was
Put a pin in that.
I definitely see that now. You're saying bring that up, and I was like, oh, that's what she
Yeah.
meant. Okay,
Yeah, that's
got
what
it,
she meant.
got it.
And then we get this scene with Vel and Clea, and I want to call us back to season one again because in season one, Clea and Vel have a meeting immediately after Aldani, and it's a very tense meeting, and it's a meeting where a mission has just gone horribly wrong. Everybody on Aldani except for Cinta, Cassian, and Vel died.
Right,
Just lost a bunch of people. She's angry. She is lashing out, and Clea's kind of a dick in that scene. She's very serious. She's very cold towards Vel. And now we have this position that's reversed, where these two women are in a different setting and in different positions of power, to where Clea now has nothing. Luthen is dead. The network is done. The rebellion has outgrown her. And Vel chooses to show her kindness, which is a very interesting choice for where the Vel character ends up. Because I think this is, other than the final montage, this is the last time we see her.
right,
And she chooses to offer kindness to Clea. Because Clea, I think, despite the passphrase being, I have friends everywhere, Clea has never believed it.
right. She doesn't
She
think that
has
she actually has
never,
friends. Yeah,
yeah, she has never once believed that she has friends. She has never once believed that she could. Friends are a luxury for people who are not doing.
right,
And the brilliant final use of that phrase in the show is to spin the I have friends everywhere to be genuine at long last for Clea. She really does have friends everywhere. She just never knew it.
right.
God, when the show is good, it's so good and it's good all the time. All my complaints are just stuff that's missing. My final note for this section is that Draven is not stupid and he really does want what's best for the rebellion, because I think people mischaracterize him a lot. They mischaracterize him as an idiot. And yes, he does have a pretty major screw up in Rogue One, but also that screw up is partially because he's acting on incomplete information.
Right.
He is not just an asshole. It's the same thing you were saying about the Imperial officers. He's a very sympathetic character in this. He is a guy trying to do the best he can for the rebellion.
Section 5. Cassian dreams of his sister before K2SO wakes him up to say Bale has returned. In a private conversation, Bale tells Cassian he's been cleared for the Kafrene mission and says he now wants to fight the Empire directly. Cassian remarks that he and Luthen would have gotten along. Cassian prepares for his mission by suiting up, watering his plants, and walking through the Yavin 4 base, passing Melshi and others. Around the base, rebels train, eat, and gather while life continues in the jungle village. On Coruscant, Perrin drinks with Runai Skolden in an airspeeder. Back on Yavin 4, Clea wakes and watches rebel activity. Meanwhile, Dedra is shown in prison, broken and weeping in her bunk. Cassian walks through the airfield and sees the Force Healer. On Jedha, Saw watches a Star Destroyer approach. In space, Krennic looks on as the Death Star nears completion, and Cassian boards his U-Wing and departs with K2SO for the Rings of Kafrene. Across the galaxy, on Minarau, Bix walks through a grain field holding a baby, staring out at the sky, offering a moment of peace and hope.
I did really like that they addressed the sister in the finale
You mean
because
the flash of her in the
the
finale?
very flash of her. Well, here's the thing: is I love to be right,
Okay.
and there were a lot of people who called that plot element dropped in the first
Okay.
season, and that it never got resolved. And I never interpreted it that way. I interpreted it as something that was never necessarily meant to be resolved.
Okay.
That the search for the sister is something that is holding Cassian back, not propelling him forward. And Marva gives
Right.
him a speech to that effect in season one.
Right.
Come to season two, she comes up again, and Tony Gilroy gave an interview.
Okay.
He's talked in other places about how they had originally thought like maybe they would bring her back in a later season and they would do more with that plot element, but then Gilroy came to the same conclusion I did. And I'm going to read you a quote from the Hollywood Reporter. Quote, people wanted to know if we're going to resolve the sister. And the sister, in the beginning, is so much more interesting to me as a deficit. She's much more valuable to me for Cassian as an absent. As he says in the end, maybe I should stop saving people. His need to return and save people and to be a savior and the compulsion to do that comes from this hole in his life. And I didn't really want to fill that in. End quote. So
Okay.
the whole is more interesting as a whole. That it's
Right.
something that he dies unfulfilled. He dies with this element of his story unresolved. A major part of his life is never resolved. And that feels very human to me. And it also narratively is very interesting. And you can say it's not satisfying, but here's the thing about narratives, they are not always satisfying. And sometimes they are more interesting because they are unsatisfying. Sometimes the story matters by what it does not resolve, as opposed to tying everything up neatly. Because art is not a thing that you could just feed into a series of like boxes. This is why the tropification of books makes me so enraged. If you want to make art that says something, if you want to have something to say and make a point with it, then it's not just a matter of ticking off all of the boxes. Certainly the checklists are useful, tropes are a great tool, but I think people have this understanding that art has to be completely fulfilling and hit all of these boxes perfectly. And good art that says something like Andor does isn't necessarily going to do that. And that's not a flaw of the show, and that's not a failure of the writer of it.
Mm.
And I was very gratified when the sister got brought back for them to be like, remember the sister, this is a major part of Cassian's character, but no, he's going to die unfulfilled on this point. This thing that drove him forward would never get resolved. And I liked that a lot as an element of a very flawed and messy character that Cassian.
So I might be really sadistic, but I really would have liked to see a scene where they show this in this montage where Cassian, gets on the ship and he flies off with K2SO. And then cut to Vel welcoming new recruits, and a woman who vaguely looks like his sister is like, "Hi, my name's Carrie," or whatever. Like she like signs her name or some
Her name
bullshit.
actually is Carrie, I think.
That's what I'm saying. Like his sister Carrie. Like I feel like she would be like, they're like, "Oh, what's your name? Carrie?" Like you know what I mean? Like I just feel like that would have been so
Oh,
iconic.
that would have been hilarious. It would have been hilarious. I don't know if I'd
Yeah.
have liked it because I think it would have made the galaxy feel smaller.
It would have, but I want to see it only for like the tragedy of the fact that she just missed him. Like they could have reconnected in another life, kind of thing. Like the happenstance that he is here, like at the rebellion, in the rebellion kind of thing, and they would have crossed paths and realized that they're both alive, kind of thing. I just love the tragedy of the fact that like she shows up the next day or something like that, like right as he leaves, and she just never missed. Like they never get the connection.
I found a fuller quote actually
Okay.
from Tony Gilroy for Deadline because I happened to have, if you're watching on Patreon, you saw my face lighting change as I moved between articles. But I found a fuller quote on Deadline, and I'm just going to read the whole quote
Okay.
because I think it really highlights why this works for me and why the sister never ever getting resolved worked so well for me. Deadline asks what happened to Cassian's sister, the one he was looking for in season 1, episode 1. There wasn't any closure on that by the end of the series. Gilroy replies, quote, "No, there wasn't. I did it in the beginning because I'm always leaving things for myself to try to pick up on. There are all kinds of things that I do pick up on later or things that I lay down so writers will pick them up in the room. But what I found was with the sister, when I put it in there, I didn't know how I was going to resolve it. And at one point, I had some melodramatic version of how that would play out in a season 2. But as I went along, I realized as I got to know Cassian, a very important absence in his life. The fact that he left her behind is a hole that will never be filled. When you watch the show, how many times does he go back for people? And in fact, Bix even says when they take off and escape from Ferrix, Cassian will find us. He goes back for Marva. He goes back for Clea. The savior component of him is much more interesting to me than some resolution. How many things in your life are unresolved?" End quote. And I also want to add, he goes back for Jen at the end of Rogue One.
Yeah. Okay. I'm
That
just
was
saying,
a,
I like the melodrama of it all. So I would have
of course
appreciated
you
if
do.
he had kept it in, I would have appreciated it. I'm just saying. Anyway, there's literally 900 people in this last scene, so we got to keep going
Yes,
because
we got to keep moving. Bail Organa saying, "If I die fighting the Empire, I want to go down swinging," is really funny considering he's from a planet of pacifists.
right,
I do wish we'd seen more of Bail and Cassian. This is one relationship that was really interesting in this episode, that was basically established in this episode
right.
and played out in this episode and was over by the end.
We didn't
Doesn't
get,
come up in Rogue One.
yeah, we didn't get any
And
good.
I wish we'd seen more of this. But we're gonna go through all of my thoughts on the final montage because I have a
Okay,
lot of them.
all right.
So we're going to try to get through this in the next 30 minutes so Bradley doesn't go insane. Cassian waters his plants.
I had to
That
throw
is
that in
the
there.
no, it's just a hilarious and beautiful moment. And
Well,
also, I love the implication that, like, even after Bix left, he's still trying to bring some, like, beauty to the place.
oh, I also saw it as like you don't water your plants unless you're know you're coming back, kind of thing.
Yes,
Like you know what
he
I mean?
thinks he's coming back.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he does come back for a second, but I mean, like,
Yes,
the implication though is that he is coming. He's watering his plants, in that he's gonna just come back and then stay back. He's not gonna like keep leaving and go doing fuck all in Rogue One. Like he's like, oh, I'm gonna come. I'll be right back. It's just a quick trip.
we see Cassian in his Ring of Kafrine outfit. This one did have to be recreated, but it's the same outfit he wears at the beginning of Rogue One. We see the troops from Rogue One drilling the Marines that are going to go with them to Scarif, including Pal, the alien, is there.
Yeah.
And just the visual storytelling of these final shots, because like the shot of Willman, he has a family again in Drina. He's just sitting there eating dinner, and like his whole thing in season 1 was that his family got taken away from him, and he bounces between them, and like all the Ferrix people die or leave him, and like Cassian is going to die. Like everyone he knew from Ferrix is going to have left him, but it's okay. He has a new family with this woman that he's met in Gorman. The Mon Mothma shot of her sitting in the middle of the like mess hall.
Mess hall.
First
Yeah.
of all, eating with everyone. She
She's
is
just
on
like
the
everybody
same
else.
level as everybody else. She's relaxed. She has her coffee. She is sitting with her cousin, and she looks so at peace with where she is. Because remember, I said all the way back in episode 1 of this season, or episode 2 of the season, I said, take a note that Vel is the only person who's like trying to have a real conversation with her. Now she and Vel are alone, but they have each other. Cut to Perrin
Okay. Here we go.
getting drunk with his sister-in-law. I think,
No,
I don't know what the relationship is between them.
it's just mother-in-law.
Other mother and my daughter's mother-in-law.
I don't know.
I don't know what
This
the
is
relationship is.
okay. This is where
It's one of those things
it
like
gets confusing.
third and second cousins. I don't know. It's heavily implied that they're having an affair.
Right. So
And
I'm
the
confused
more important bit of this is that he is drinking.
that he's
Because
yeah,
remember, he has a
just-
drinking problem.
right, drinking to drink. Yeah.
It is interesting to juxtapose this with the Mon bit. Mon left Coruscant and has taken a massive downgrade.
Right.
But
But
she's
she's happy.
like happy. She's more at
Right.
peace. I wouldn't say happy, but she's more at peace.
More at peace. Okay.
And Perrin, who was always the fun guy, he was the let's just have fun. Let's ignore all the stuff. He's miserable. And he's still trapped in the middle of this epicenter of the Empire, which is a heartbreaking choice for him. I don't know if I'm totally satisfied with it as resolution
Yeah.
for this.
This is the only resolution we get on the family.
This is the only resolution we get on the family.
I don't love
And
that.
I also do have to shout out Steph, our friend Steph from Dark Side Divas. Hi, Steph. Pitched a wonderful theory to me that
Okay.
I did not think of, but then I realized, oh shit, this is great. She pitched the idea that the reason that Perrin and Davos Skalden's wife are hooking up is because Skalden had to flee the planet after Mon left because his finances were deeply tied up in hers.
I like the idea that he was actually arrested, not flee.
Oh,
That he
yes,
actually got
that is
caught.
also a good one. Yeah, I didn't think about Davos Skalden until Steph brought it up to me, and I was like,
I didn't
oh,
either.
shit, what happened to him? Because he was like
He was
wrapping
moving
his
money around
finances
and
up.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, he was indirectly helping finance the rebellion.
Ooh, and guess who gets arrested for doing that?
Everybody.
Yeah. So I'm thinking that's exactly what happened is that these two made it out because they were the unsuspecting, wife and husband of the actual criminals, right? It's like they didn't actually know anything and they probably got interviewed and everything and everybody was like, okay, they're just the dumb, trophy wife and husband that no one listens to anyway, so it's not a big deal. And honestly, Perrin probably has pretty good standing in the community or whatever, so people probably
He's
vouch for
clearly
him.
still rich.
Right. So I feel like they vouched for him and like that's why he got it out. And honestly, they probably glommed onto each other just because of sheer just need. Like not because I'm
Yeah.
sure he genuinely he probably likes to hook up with her or whatever. But I feel like in the sense though, he's just doing it out of necessity. It's not
Yeah.
necessarily like
He's reverted back. He's reverted back to who he was like
right.
prior to the show because
Exactly.
he's regressed. He has nothing left.
Hmm.
And I do also want to mention, so there's a bit of a rabbit hole, but follow me here. There's a lot of people who I feel like have sort of an idea of Perrin that is not what is presented in the show. And
Okay.
everything we talked previously to this moment is the Perrin as he is presented in the show. And I've already heard some people going, yeah, but the writer said this.
No.
And
No.
we're going to talk about that quote from the writer now.
Okay.
But I do want to stress that part of why I push back on that is that if it didn't make it into the show, it is not part of the piece of media. And
Right.
Perrin, as he is presented to us in the show, there are some hints that he is not all that he appears to be on the surface. The show has never followed up on it. No piece of
Right.
Star Wars media has ever followed up on it. And so we cannot incorporate that into the read of Perrin in this scene as the scene is presented to us in the text. We can certainly analyze it from the perspective, too, of having that outside information of scenes that were pitched and scenes that were written. But because it was not filmed and because it did not make it into the storyline itself, we are left with what we're left of. So I have to go back to episode 9. And remember I mentioned there was a scene that was cut at Chandrilla.
Right.
So Dan Gilroy did an interview with Backstory Magazine, and I'm going to quote from that interview. I'm going to truncate it a little bit because I just read two massive Tony Gilroy quotes. But basically, in the scene that was in the first draft that Dan Gilroy wrote, he had written a scene in which she goes back to Chandrilla after the safe house. They take her back to Chandrilla because she wants to talk to her daughter. Her daughter's not there, but Perrin is there, and they have a conversation. That's what Dan Gilroy said. When the finale came out, Tom Bissell, who's the writer of the finale, said, and I am going to quote this, also to Backstory Magazine, quote, "There was going to be an interesting moment. Tony Gilroy performed it. Perrin just saying, I knew what you were up to this whole time. They talked to me. Every week they'd interrogate me. I never said a word. You didn't trust me. You could have trusted me. And the heartbreak she would feel in that moment of this guy she'd pushed out could have been reliable. The double heartbreak of her walking away from her life, thinking she's dropping this deadbeat husband who never supported her, and then the double dagger stab. But that's headcanon. That didn't happen." End quote. That was the thing the writer, that Tom Bissell, who's the writer that said that quote, added at the end there that it is still currently just a headcanon. It didn't
Right.
happen. I would have loved to see this version of Perrin. This would have been great. I get why they cut it, which is because the episode was really unwieldy and it would have killed the pacing at the end of it. But I would have loved to see this version. This is a really neat version of the character, and you can see it kind of in what Alistair McKenzie is doing. But unfortunately, it is perpetually just
Yeah. I mean, until it's pen to paper in the can, it's
yep.
not, you
Until
know.
somebody adds it, which the Mark of Fear, Mask of Fear did a fantastic job of adding more nuance to Perrin.
So there you go.
Like that sort of thing, you can interpret this in. Somebody will recanonize this down the road, I'm sure. As it currently stands, this is not the character that it does. It is heavily implied to be the character. Now, I would be interesting to know what happened to Perrin because he clearly didn't get executed.
Right.
And Lita, if Perrin survived, Lita, who hated her mom, probably also survived.
I need to know. Yeah. Did they
I need to
reconnect?
know what happened to these characters,
Right.
especially since Mon becomes the Chancellor of the New Republic.
So your parents basically get divorced. Your mom commits acts of treason against the government, becomes the new president of said government, and then of the new government that takes over the old government. And then you just don't talk to her anymore. Like I'm confused. I want to know what actually happens after
Yeah, I
that
need to know
because
what happens to these characters.
yeah, for sure.
And again, of the entire season, this is the biggest failing for me is that
Is that
they do not resolve what happens with Perrin in a satisfactory way. And I know I just talked about like there's points where a story can be unresolved and that can be an artistic choice and that can be something that's interesting. This doesn't feel like that. This feels like they dropped them because they ran out of time.
yeah.
It's not because it's more interesting.
No, because arguably the quote unquote leads of the show are Mon and Cassian. And I don't understand why Mon's storyline just kind of ends. Like, I get it in the sense that, like, okay, we know where she ends up in Rogue One. We know where she's supposed to end up in A New Hope. Like, we already know the story, technically. We know what happens to her after the war is over. But, like, she's still technically a main character of this show. So I need you to, like,
Yes.
tie up her plot lines, like, a
I,
little
I
bit.
think
Like,
her plotline pretty much resolves in episode 9.
right.
And this is mostly about Cassian, but I do like how her appearances in episode 12 show where her character lands.
Right.
Because by Rogue One, she has become the very serene Mon Mothma that
Mhm.
we know and love from the original. Clea wakes up, the implication being that Clea got to sleep in for the first time in her life.
She's like, is it 11 o'clock already?
Why did my alarm not go
Like, my
off?
alarm didn't go off at 4 a.m. Like it does every day.
And she also does get to see like the rebellion that she built. That's kind of her final shot
Right.
is getting to see the rebellion that she built, which is an awesome final shot for her. She was a standout character of the entire show.
Which is
And
why I want to know more.
I want to know more. I'm also totally cool if she like just retires.
Which she probably does, but I also kind of like I want to know like does she is she satisfied with just being retired? Is she like once she finds out what happens to Cassian, is she like more invigorated again like to be like, "Oh, I want to go out and do something and I want to go out and, you know, live a different life." Like I don't know what she, you know what I mean? Like I it could go so many different ways if somebody ever decided to pick her character up again and do something with her, but who knows?
Yeah, they haven't really done a lot of Andor tie-in material, which is weird to me,
Yeah. Well, I
given that
mean, yeah.
the books, historically Star Wars books, and even the Disney era Star Wars book have gone to some much darker place than like the visual media has gone to. Like there are books that are on par with Andor.
Yeah.
Like it's bizarre to me that we haven't gotten a lot of like tie-ins or a lot of exploring, and especially now the show is done. Like Tony Gilroy's not gonna fucking write any more of this.
No,
He's
I think
so
he's
over this.
yeah, he's so divorced from the character now. I think he's good. Like he or the idea of the show. Like he's like, okay, I did my part. I'm really good now. I think that it won't be this, you know, upcoming year or whatever, but I feel like now that we have wrapped the bow on Andor, essentially, I think now it does
Right.
open the door to go, well, maybe there's a Vel book, maybe there's a Clea book, maybe there's a Luthen prequel book. Like, you know, there is stuff that they can do, or comics or whatever, you know, any other media. I don't think there'll ever be like a visual media for them because I feel like
I think
we're
there's
good.
a better than average chance actually that transitions really nicely into my next note.
Okay.
There's a better than average chance that some of them show up later on down the timeline now that the show is done. And
Okay.
I think the most likely person to show up is Dedra Miro.
Okay, I was just about to say that.
Because we leave her having a panic attack in prison.
Right.
Like, she's alive. She does not have a redemption arc. She is still evil. She's just totally and utterly broken, which is a great way to end this character. However, I'm just saying that if we are getting an Heir to the Empire movie and we're getting more stuff around there, having her in that era as a Saint Isard type character, she is intelligent. She could likely show up.
I
I
don't
could
think it's
see
out of
them
the realm of
busting her
possibility.
out of her New Republic prison.
Well, I don't even think they would bust her out. I feel like we have already established in Mandalorian and other shows that they just forgive them and then give them jobs. Like, so I don't think that's necessarily
The ones
like
that are on Coruscant, she's on Narkina.
right, but like, why wouldn't they be like, you know what? She didn't really do anything that crazy. Let's get her out and reform her. You know what I mean? And like put her through the reform training or whatever.
Yeah,
Like,
I could very easily see her turning up as a minion to Thrawn, or I could
yeah,
see
why
her
not?
turning up as like a destabilizing force in the New Republic in the Heir to the Empire movie. You know,
No, I think it would be actually wise of them to use her later on because it's like I feel like it would be one of those things where it's like, oh, she's quote unquote redeemed, but then there's really that underlying like revenge like plot just somewhere down deep down in her. She's just like still the same, and so like she's always gonna it's gonna come back out.
I badly want to go on an insanely long tangent where I explain the entire character of Ysain Isard and her entire role in the Rogue Squadron comics and novels. I cannot do this because we don't have the time. But if you're listening to this and you're an EU girly like me, you know exactly what I mean when I say she should be Isard. Cassian passes the Force Healer, who just looks sad. Then we get shots of Saw and Krennic. They're literally just standing where they are in Rogue One. Also, these shots were in the trailers. I don't care. They're cool shots. Man, I wish that they hadn't put them in the trailers
Yeah,
because they're literally some of the final shots of the show. Like it somewhat implies we're going to see more of the Death Star construction in the
right.
season, and we did not, but that's okay. They're still really killer shots. And then Cassian takes off, and then we get this fuck ass ending. Okay, so I need to talk about the Bix is given a baby at the end of the show
Okay.
plot. And I have thought long and hard, and I have listened to many different people who have talked about their opinions of this scene. And here is my thoughts on this scene. I understand what the writers were going for. Tony Gilroy specifically was responsible for wanting to include this. I understand what Gilroy was going. I understand wanting to end the story on a more hopeful note, particularly for Bix's character because she has endured so much. And I also do understand like defaulting to a child as emblematic of hope because children throughout media and storytelling have long been a symbol of hope. Literally, Revenge of the Sith does this. Revenge of the Sith ends with Obi-Wan handing Luke off to Owen and Beru. He's going to become the new hope. I get it. This is the laziest possible way you could have done this scene. It's the apex of the I see what you wanted to do, but because you did not have time to really flesh it out, you fell back on the laziest possible writing choice to do this. And that's what I think bothers me about it because the show is supposed to be smarter than that. It's the Cinta thing, but worse somehow. Because the Cinta thing, you can kind of argue they built up to it in the episode. This just sort of it comes out of nowhere and the thing. And it also has to be mentioned that it was all men in the writing room writing this sequence as well. This happens a lot when men are writing these particular types of stories because I love Dave Filoni. I think he's an excellent writer. Dave Filoni also did this. And this is another reason I think that this rubbed people a little wrong. It's not a reason that it rubbed me wrong, but it's a reason I know that it rubbed people wrong is that rebellion women keep being given children at the end of their arcs. And Dave Filoni also had the father die. So it's a single mom now raising a kid into the next generation. It's exactly the same plot beat as Rebels. And it starts to feel like, do you guys know how to do anything else? Because again, Leia also had a kid, not at the end of Return of the Jedi, but we know just down the timeline, she also had Ben Solo. That was something that I know rubbed people wrong. For me, it was just the laziest choice. That's what got me.
What would
Is
you have
I
done
looked at
differently
it and
then?
went, uh,
Because I mean,
I,
I understand what you're
I don't
saying.
know if I would have given her the kid.
I
I
know.
would have I would have probably done. I also have issues. I get that it's budgetary reasons. I also have issues with the fact she went back to Mina Rao.
Well, yeah, that's just
I actually have more issues with the fact that she went back to Mina Rao
right.
than that she had the kid. The kid was just lazy writing. The Mina Rao, her going back to Mina Rao, like you had the worst experience, one of the worst experiences of your
Right.
life on Mina Rao, and you went back there. Like I get that it's pretty, but you were there. I would have ended the show with Bix like, you know what? No, I can tell you exactly what I would have done. I would have had Bix go back to Fair.
Right.
I would have had her go back
She
to
would have
Fair.
gone back home. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Home.
would have had her go
Yeah,
back
yeah.
home.
Right.
She went to Mina Rao, and I get that we don't want to rebuild the entire Ferric set for this because we demolished it after season one. But I get we had the Mina Rao set, we needed to use it, but I would have gone back. I would have had her go back to Ferric.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that would be for me a way I would have done it differently to try to convey the same. But she can go anywhere, really. The point is that she's ending with a hopeful spot for the future. But
Right.
yeah, I have lots
Yeah.
of complicated thoughts. I know people that like this sequence, and I have at least one very good friend who fucking hates this scene to the point where she was a diehard for this show. The entire show started losing her when Senta died, and like this just left the most sour taste in her mouth. And I felt really bad for her because this is some of the only Star Wars,
I
and I
don't
feel really bad.
it's like it's not that I don't like it. I don't it's like I don't like or dislike it, right? Like it's like one of those things where I'm just like, okay, it makes sense, like whatever. The only thing that I do like about it, and I think this is where they were going with it, is that like we know Cassian is about to die. And so like
Right.
this is essentially him, quote unquote, living on, or his like essence, his
Yes,
legacy
that's the
living on.
trope. There's
Right.
literally the trope. Hold on. I will find the name of the trope.
Oh, okay, yeah. I get why they use it, right? Like I
It,
understand it, but it's one of those things where I'm just like, okay. Like I don't know what else I would have done other than have her go back to Ferrex. I don't know. Because honestly, I don't
yeah.
even know if I would have ended it with her, because I feel like her just going off is good enough ending on its own. Like I don't think we needed to come back to her, because it's just like we know she got off. Like we know she
Uh,
got away. I don't know if I needed that.
I will stress before I say this, tropes are not bad. Tropes can have some problematic elements that are associated with them. I think this one does. But my issue with its usage here is not necessarily that it is a problematic trope. I just think that it is insert default ending here. But I will say that I looked it up. It is something to remember him by, is the trope. It is an intersection of her heart will go on and the baby's ever after trope.
The only good thing about this, though, is that we do get B2 back.
Yeah, we do get B2 emo back, and I was glad he got a happy ending.
He got a new best friend that he clearly is basically the same exact kind of droid, but different in some weird way. I don't know how that worked, but they just visually are kind of the same but different shape. Love that for him. You got a new best friend and you lived a happy life, it seems like, the rest
Yeah,
of your
thank
life. So I
God
love that.
B2 did not die. And that is the note we can end the coverage of the show on. Thank
Exactly.
God B2 got to survive.
I actually think that would have been a really good ending too, if they had just ended it on him. And like, because they kind of fuck off within the first arc. They're just like, oh, we
Yeah.
leave him
They
behind,
they
like
do
whatever.
not know what to do with B2 after the first arc because they're about to have to do Gorman for 6
Yeah,
episodes and we don't have time for B2.
we don't have time for him. So I love that they brought him back. I wish it the final shot would have been on him being like happy, like just like, okay, he's just happy, like that's it. Like it just would have been like a cute little whatever. But anyway,
I do want to talk about how this movie feeds into Rogue One.
okay, that will be
Because
our next
the first
section,
time I ever watched this movie,
or this movie.
unless you had another section that you wanted to
No,
say.
I mean, before we do
Oh,
final thoughts, I
okay.
want to do
Before we
like
do
a
final
yeah,
thoughts, I do want to talk about how this intersects because
yeah,
I watched the movie the first time I ever watched the finale episodes. I had such a great time. that I watched Rogue One immediately afterwards. I was watching my TV for 6 hours. I sat down at 6 o'clock,
Jesus.
watched the finale, then immediately watched Rogue One. And I would have watched A New Hope, but it was midnight and I had to go to bed.
Madman.
I'm insane. But one, it somewhat explains where the rebellion is at, like how they know about Galen Erso, but they
Sure.
don't know what the Death Star is. They just kind of know. But the scene it connects the best to me for is Cassian's scene with Tivik.
Okay.
Because there's a couple of elements of that scene. One that's really funny and one that's really interesting. So in the scene, Cassian says, "Oh, I got here as soon as I could." No, the fuck you didn't. You took a whole ass hangover nap, watered your plants, and then came and saw Tivik.
Right. Only because they let you.
Only because they let you. It's so fucking funny. But I was really interested with how when Tivik says the name Galen Urso, Cassian, you can tell, freaks out. He goes,
Mm.
Galen Urso, are you sure Galen Urso? With the context of these episodes, we now know that is 100% confirmation that the weapon exists. And so by the
Mm.
time we get to the briefing with Jen, the rebellion knows for a fact that the weapon exists.
Yeah, because now they're hearing it for a second time, basically. They're they're
Yep.
they're just confirming
They
the
have
original
just
story.
100% confirmed that a weapon actually exists, which is why Cassian is sent on the mission. Also, Cassian seems like he's really drinking the rebellion Kool-Aid in Rogue One. Like he approaches like Draven with like parade rest. And we do find out it is because Cassian has a history of fucking off and doing whatever he wants, and then everything goes to hell. So by this point, yes, of course, he knows he's in deep shit.
Right.
So of course he's going to be like 100% down on following orders. So I like how it all connects to Rogue One. Final thoughts on the series finale of Andor.
I thought it was fine. I think the problem is I think they kind of, forgive my French, shot their wad on the last arc. And I think that like that was a better, more exciting ending. I think that's the ending. This is just like we have to show you a few scenes that connect to Rogue One. Like it's just that's all this is. I mean, it really is like kind of that's why when you said the first two are good, I feel like the first two should just be the first two. Like it needs to be two episodes. We could have taken all the escape from Coruscant stuff, put it in the first episode. That's literally where it cuts. I think that's genuine. And then put back, like you said, put the Clea escape from hospital stuff back in the first episode. And then that way it just kind of goes better together as like this is the Clea Luthen episode. This is the Yavin 4 episode. That just it needs to be truncated like that, I think, and it would flow better for me. It would flow better. But I it's like I'm two minds about it. I feel like I don't like it, but I like it. I feel like it works, but it's not enough. It's kind of like you're like, okay, it ends.
Yeah, my final thought is that the show neither really ended on a high note, nor did it particularly end on a low note, with the exception of the final shot, which, as you know, I do not like. But for the most part, the show neither ended on a high note or a low note. It ended, I think, exactly where it needed to end. That I wish it had had more time to flesh itself out. I do understand logistically why it had to be shortened, and I'm grateful to Kathleen Kennedy that they did get to tell the bones of the rest of the story. I know it was going to sound like I was down on this show as we go through it because it's sort of the reverse of what's happened with shows like Ahsoka, where I didn't really like Ahsoka when I watched it. I thought it was kind of dumb, and then we analyzed it, and I found more things in it that I didn't notice when I watched it. I think Andor, I have the sort of opposite experience where I watched it and I loved it, and then going in and trying to analyze the second season, you see the giant gaps that are missing. And so they told the story that they wanted to tell, Tony and Dan and all the other people that were involved in it. And, you know, it suffers for the compressed timeline, but I'm glad they got to tell the whole story. I'm glad that the whole story exists. And I'm really looking forward to talking about something less complicated. What are we talking about next week, Bradley?
We're gonna talk about the season as a whole, our thoughts and feelings, and a little bit more broader. So we'll kind of break that down a little bit. Our favorite moments, our least favorite moments, and just our overall feeling.
Yay. And then we could do stuff that's like not 2 hours long, right?
We'll see.
We'll see. I know what's coming up.
Right.
Hopefully, we should not have a series of extended discussions on it. Hopefully, Bradley remembers to bring it with him
This is true.
where he is going. He needs to remember to pack it for his next job.
I may have already done that.
Okay, good. Yes, and I have to. I have to. I'm not going to say what I have to do because that's going to give away what it is.
Okay.
But we're going to do something very, very, very special in a couple of weeks. However, pluggables. You can find a bunch of reality TV that Bradley has worked on. We just mentioned that he is going to work on another show. So please watch his shows if you like reality television. If you want to hear about me hate watching one of the shows that Bradley's worked on, you can sign up for our Patreon at Gold Squadron Gaze at patreon.com/Gold Squadron Gaze, where you can catch our extended bonus content at the front with our warm-up, where I yell at Bradley about Temptation Island, a show he worked on that I watched that I hated. Other shows that he has worked on that I'm sure I would hate less than Temptation Island include Married to Medicine, The Circle, Queen's Court, and currently King's Court is airing on Bravo. You can find me on the Star Wars TTRPG podcast for Light and Dice, a TTRPG set in the High Republic era. Bradley is also a voice on some of the interludes in that show. You can find me involved with Legacy Expo, an expanded universe event that is a Star Wars EU fan convention in Burbank, California, September 13th. That is rapidly approaching. You can also find books that I write, Beach House Studios. If you like thriller writing, I do that too. Amazon Kindle, Barnes & Noble, Kobo, and you can request it through your library through. All right, Bradley, we did it. We made it through Andor, except for the recap, but that doesn't count. I need to go eat dinner and then sleep for 10,000 years. Just kidding. I still have a day job. I have to wake up in the morning, so please run our social. Thank you for listening to Gold Squadron Gaze. Did Charles fuck something up? Email us at goldsquadrongaze@gmail.com and let us know. You can follow us on BlueSky, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok at Gold Squadron Gaze. Subscribe to us on YouTube at Gold Squadron Gaze, where we post full episodes of this podcast. If you like the podcast, you can also rate us and review us on your favorite podcast app of choice. Please join us next week and every week for another episode of Gold Squadron Gaze. Yes, you're currently seeing my sunken dead eyes.
Yeah,
You're
just what the people want.
Just what the people wanted. My exhausted, sallow face.